Holy.
I actually, a good friend of mine is an emergency medicine doctor in Texas, and he is friends with somebody that that works for 3M.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because at my job, we bought one of these. Actually, it's kind of funny, but it's almost like a nail company. They make these UV. It almost looks like a toaster oven that's UV light.
Mm-hmm.
But then people that work in nail salons put their equipment in there to sterilize them.
Absolutely,
so
yeah.
So what we started doing is we started using that for our masks. So you go through your shift, and at the end of your shift, you put your mask in there.
Nice.
But after speaking to the people from 3M, you could actually only do that 5 times. And then they say the UV light breaks down the fibers of the 3M mask or the N95 mask.
Oh,
and you can't use it anymore. So now it's like we actually have to number our masks every time we put them in there. So that way we know how many times we could actually use them. It's bizarre.
So do you have like slashes on your mask, almost like number of, well, I'm not going to say it. That would be really scary to see a doctor come in with like slashes on their, kind of like, this is my 6th kill today almost. Sorry.
No,
it sounded more
it's not like that. We actually, yeah, it's like a Vietnam movie.
That would freak me out as a patient. Be like, what? It's the number of people I saved today.
I got the skull and crossbones. That's a new level. What we do is when we're using the masks, we actually have to we put them in like brown bags. And what I've been just trying to do is every time I UV light my mask, I'll put it back in the brown bag, mark off the bag how many times it's been actually used.
Wow. That's it seems like a logistical quagmire almost. Like I can't even imagine how you had to reorganize the hospital too. Like that must have been just such a huge undertaking in itself.
Actually, they're good points you're bringing up. So one of the things that the hospital I worked at did, which is smart on their end, is our pediatric, the amount of cases we're seeing in peds is virtually none. So, for example, yesterday in the emergency department, they saw 13 kids all day, which is basically nothing, right?
Yeah.
So what they actually did was they pulled the pediatric emergency department, they made into basically like a second ICU.
Wow.
So, all of the intubated COVID sick patients are now, there's 2 ICUs to work at. So now the pediatric ER is kind of a holding ground or a second ICU. So, there are things like that are happening all over the place. For example, my wife, who works at the hospital here in Connecticut, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names.
Yeah, don't worry.
She works at a prominent hospital in Connecticut, and they actually have a cancer center that has all these negative pressure rooms, meaning all the infected air is basically sucked into a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
So they basically made 3 floors of this cancer center. They took obviously the sick cancer patients out and moved them elsewhere, but they've now got the center for basic COVID patients. All the COVID patients are being put on these floors for extra rooms, so that way they can kind of open the rest of the hospital up and keep things functioning. Wow. A lot of hospitals are doing, people that run hospitals or people that run any business typically get to the top because they're usually fairly smart and they can kind of make some quick decisions that are usually pretty good. And I think a lot of hospitals have made a lot of smart decisions in terms of maximizing because they've been forced to. 4,000 people a day coming in sick, you've got to make some adjustments to your program to be able to make it work. And again, I think my hospital, my wife's hospital, and basically every other hospital, people that I have friends that work at they're making the right choices and doing smart things to basically maximize what they can for patients.
Wow. So I'm going to switch gears here a little bit, but to surf or not to surf?
It's really a tough question. I would say if you can get to a place where you really have a good amount of distance from people, then you're going to be okay. I really don't think it, like I said, when I was watching, the cameras there, Rockaway, and it's waist high and there's 30 people out and they're 2 feet away from each other, I wouldn't go out, to be honest, just because you don't know how the virus is going to impact you. I mean, maybe you've got, exercise-induced asthma, and it's like, oh, when I was a kid, I used to have asthma attacks when I was playing soccer, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
You might be on a ventilator. I can't tell you that you won't be. You might just have headaches for a week, but you might also be on a ventilator, And again, statistically speaking, if you're on a ventilator, if you're younger, you're my age, maybe you got a 50-50 chance, but that's really kind of what it is, it's a crapshoot. You don't know how you're going to be, impacted by it.
And that's why
I would just
stay
look at it that way. Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but
no, it doesn't.
You have to kind of think, like, are the waves good enough that I want to risk my life? And if you can say to yourself, then yes, it's like epic and it's bombing and I need to, go out there, then I would say, hey, then, that's your call, But if you got kids and family, I would say it's, it's really not the best time to go out, especially, I mean, again, this is only if it's crowded, so to speak, and there's a lot of people out there. It's.
I would also, though, say that one of the things I would be worried about also is getting injured myself, which my listeners have heard is one of my reasons not to go. Is I don't want to be that wasted resource. I was talking to a buddy of mine who works in ER also, and I'm like, you must be thinking, oh, this asshole has to come in with fucking need to get stitches now. Now he's going to leave with COVID, like that's how I would be feeling.
That's true. So when I'm not in the emergency department, which is most of the time I'm in private practice doing, non-operative, basically orthopedics.
Yeah.
And the injuries that we're getting there are right now, I mean, our volume is down, but the acuity and how sick the people are that are coming into our walk-in clinics is kind of through the roof because people don't want to go to the emergency department. So, I mean, I'm seeing, femur fractures in older folks, humerus fractures, all these things that are typically shouldn't be really coming into a walk-in clinic for, but they're coming in because they don't want to go to the emergency department.
Wow. Wow. That's hard.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. I mean, like you really, you're right. Like there was a post, on social media a week and a half ago that talked about all these like do-it-yourself projects that are basically backfiring, and it's causing people to go to the emergency department because people are home and they're like, oh, what can I do? And they're like, oh, let me use a circular saw. Meanwhile, I've only used the one 3 times in my life, and I just cut my fingers off. I mean, those things are actually happening. And you're like, what are you doing, man? Just like be smart.
I'm gonna stick to Velcro in my house for a while.
Just use duct tape, man.
Duct
Come
tape.
On,
Exactly.
But,
Flex Seal.
What I would say though, like, and again, not to reiterate or go back to that point, but about surfing, again, I can't speak for anybody. Everybody has the right to make their own decisions, but it's not a joke. And so many people are sick, and you just don't know how it's going to impact you. So if you kind of have that, hey, I'm 20 years old and I'm invincible, I mean, I can tell you that you're not, because I literally have seen people in their 20s with tubes down their throat, basically holding on for life because they're basically trying to die. This is how I look at it. They're trying to die, and we're trying to not let them die at this point.
Oh,
that's
man.
Really what it's think of it that way.
Is. Wow.
Yeah, we're not like, we're basically, we can't save you, but we're going to try to help you not die. That's what it's like, because there is no cure, there is no treatment. You don't know what's going to work. Obviously, well, none of these things are really working well, but you don't know how you're going to get impacted. So, I mean, like Ron posting on there about, people that are paddling up next to him. I mean, I kind of, I can't really say that, I don't blame them. I mean, I do, especially if it's like, hey, I'm just out here with some friends, a friend, we're 20 yards apart, and then a guy paddles up next to me. It's not that smart, I mean, if you can go paddle out down the beach and at least get a wave or two down there, you know, by yourself, then hey, go for it. But you got to, you know, paddle right next to one other guy that's out in the water. That's not really that smart, you know?
No, it's not. And it's not necessary. So, yeah, well, hopefully surfers make the right decision and start to respect each other and respect distance. And
right. Well, I mean,
you know,
look what's going on in California, right? I mean,
it's crazy.
You see, and yeah, Trestles is going off, and there's nobody out because they're forced to. I mean, that potentially may happen, you know, more and more places.
Well, it should have happened here in some ways, you know? Like, I feel like, why didn't we do that in New York and New Jersey even? It's worse here in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just a cultural kind of thing where, you know, the cops and all these local authorities aren't really thinking, yeah, let's target the beaches.
Surfers.
Where you know, California is like the way of life, you know?
Yeah. So much people are really up in arms about it and really upset that they can't go in the water. And I feel their pain, but also when I hear stories from you and other friends on the front lines, it's just like, yeah, I can wait on surfing. It's not the most important thing in my life. There are other things that I have, you know, to keep me happy.
Right.
So I can hang out for a little bit. It's the least I can
right,
do.
And that's kind of your next step too, in terms of what we were talking about earlier, the antibody testing. I mean, you get antibody tested and you've got antibodies. I mean, then that gives you a little bit more leeway, you know. I mean,
yeah.
One, you know, you won't be, obviously, you should not be out if you're infectious still, but, you know, after somewhat your body curing yourself from the illness, you know, you can kind of go out with a bit more freedom at that point, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's what everyone should be pushing for, is just to get get more testing out there in general so that we can make a plan and understand what's happening so we can move forward. Not knowing is what's stalling us. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, Yale in Connecticut is actually doing kind of for medical providers. They're doing antibody testing to kind of help people understand where they're at. Because again, a lot of people will be infected and not even know, and they're trying to basically, you know, make sure that they can get their healthcare providers, you know, that knowledge of if they've been infected or not, and if they've got antibodies, and they can kind of have a little bit of reprieve when they go to work, saying, okay, I know that I've been sick already and I'm good now. So yeah, I'm not saying they should be walking around without masks and stuff, but at the same time, they're, you know, they've somewhat kind of, you know, been through it already, you know?
Totally. Well, Dr. J, really appreciate you coming on, man. Really appreciate your time and sharing your experiences and your knowledge. It's, I think, going to be really helpful for a lot of people. So thank you.
No problem. My pleasure.
You stay safe. I'm going to check in on you in a week or two. Also, I want to just make sure you guys are okay and see if there's any new news, and you know, and I hope you and your wife are able to, you know, you guys stay healthy and your kids are all right, and be safe, man. Thank you for everything you guys are doing. We really appreciate it.
No problem. Stay safe yourself. Okay?
I will. Thanks, man. You take care.
Take care.
Bye. Okay, and that was Dr. J. So that is our show. This is our continuing coverage of the coronavirus. We're going to try to bring these stories to you, try to make people, you know, or try to get people to hear what's happening here at the heart of it all and understand what's at stake with this. So for many of you who are listening, please be safe, practice safe habits, keep social distancing. For those of you who are not in New York and are in other parts of the country, please be vigilant. If you do need to surf, try to surf away from people as much as possible. Keep those distances and be really careful and cautious as well, because nobody needs to be that ass going into the emergency room for stitches and then coming out with COVID. So
please just be careful if you are going to surf or if